And now, ladies and gentlemen, over on the right, you will notice a wild elephant. Do you know why the elephant quit his job? It's because he was tired of working for peanuts. Welcome to Teacup For One. My name is Matt, and I have 2 degrees. Well, it's June, so you know what that means. The Jungle Cruise movie is about to hit theaters. Just kidding, it got delayed by almost a year. But that's not bad because it means we have a whole year to speculate about what this enigma of a movie is actually going to turn out to be. Now, this film isn't on a lot of people's radar, which makes a ton of sense because unless you're super familiar with the Disney parks, it's not a property you're going to be super familiar with. But all Disney fans should be, because not only is this film based on a classic Disney parks attraction, in the words of Troy Bolton and Gabriela Montez, the Jungle Cruise film could be the start of something new. And I don't just mean a new franchise. I mean the start of a brand new Disney cinematic universe. But before we get to that, let's talk about what the Jungle Cruise movie might actually be about. For anyone unfamiliar with the attraction that this film is based off of, the Jungle Cruise started sailing on Disneyland's opening day, July 17th, 1955. And all these years later, it remains a fan favorite in the parks. I mean, honestly, who doesn't love looking at adorable animatronic animals while hearing animal puns? If anyone put up their hands, they are a lion. This ride has always fascinated me because the ride that we know and love today is nothing like what Walt Disney's original intention for the attraction was. Originally, he wanted the Jungle Cruise to be populated by real animals, and the role of the skipper wouldn't have any jokes. They would just be giving very straightforward facts about the animals that you were seeing. So picture the Kilimanjaro safaris in Disney's Animal Kingdom, but with a fraction of the space. So due to budget and logistics, eventually the idea of having real animals was scrapped and they were replaced with audio animatronics. Over time, the role of the skipper evolved as well, from documentarian-style narrator.
Because of the migratory habits of the beasts in the jungle, this area is often inhabited with gazelles, gnus, zebras, giraffes, and look, in that tree, vultures waiting for their share.
To pun-filled tour guide.
Look at that! Somebody's getting an old tree for Christmas. Yeah, I can tell because it's all wrapped up with a boa on top.
It made the ride a lot more fun and a timeless classic, but really the ride is still a tour of animals. So it makes you think, how can you possibly get a feature film narrative that's fun and exciting out of this ride? Now, it worked with Pirates of the Caribbean because even though there wasn't a story associated with that ride either, it was filled with action, adventure, and you could tell that every single pirate had their own story to tell. And it led to a really incredible film and some mediocre follow-up films. But the Jungle Cruise, you just have animals. Well, the first obvious place to look if we're trying to figure out what the plot of the Jungle Cruise movie could be is to look at the 2 films that originally inspired the ride. According to Imagineers, the Jungle Cruise was inspired by The African Lion, which was a Disney-produced nature documentary in 1955 about the African lion, and the Humphrey Bogart, Katharine Hepburn classic, The African Queen. Now, right off the bat, I think we can just dismiss The African Lion because, if anything, I think it's a great indicator of what Walt Disney wanted the Jungle Cruise to be. It's a documentary. You're seeing animals existing in their natural habitat, and you're learning very fun, educational, kind of dry facts about said animals.
I never dreamed that any experience could be so stimulating.
Is it interesting? Sure. Is it a vehicle for a Dwayne Johnson-led action-adventure movie in the jungle? Probably not. But then you have The African Queen. Lots of people are speculating that the Jungle Cruise movie might be a remake of The African Queen, and there's definitely a case to be made. The steam engines from the actual Jungle Cruise ride and now the Jungle Cruise film are directly inspired by the design of the title vessel in The African Queen. Dwayne Johnson's costume is very reminiscent of what Humphrey Bogart wears in that film as well. And just based on the trailer alone, it looks like the Jungle Cruise is paying homage to some of The African Queen's most iconic moments, But I think the key word there is homage. Because based on the plot of The African Queen, I really don't think The Jungle Cruise is able to borrow much more than just those tiny little references and tiny moments. Because The African Queen is a very intimate love story that's just about Katharine Hepburn and Humphrey Bogart trapped on a tiny little boat while they go on essentially a suicide mission to make a homemade torpedo. Make me a torpedo, Mr. Allnut. To take down a Nazi warship, and along the way, while they're sailing on the rapids, they fall in love on their own private little love boat. The Love Boat! As much as I would love for The Jungle Cruise to be a remake of The African Queen, it's just not going to happen. Just purely going off of the trailer, we don't know much, but intimate love story this is not. What we do know from the trailer is that Emily Blunt's character has hired Dwayne Johnson's character to take her on an expedition into the jungle to find the Tree of Life. They are racing against a team of German explorers who seem to have the same goal in mind and may or may not be out to awaken a great evil, and it seems to culminate in vine zombies and a monster snake. Honestly, it looks kind of like National Treasure meets Brendan Fraser's The Mummy, and that's the movie I didn't know I wanted, but I do. Vine zombies, snake monsters, curses. You have to stop and think. Does this movie have anything to do with the Jungle Cruise ride? Does this movie have anything to do with the Jungle Cruise ride? No. But also yes. Now remember, the Jungle Cruise is one of the most popular Disney rides. So there's not just a Jungle Cruise at Disneyland. There's one at Walt Disney World in Florida. There's one in Tokyo at Tokyo Disneyland, as well as Hong Kong Disneyland. We're going to focus on Hong Kong Disneyland for just a second, because back in 2015, for one Halloween season and one Halloween season only, Hong Kong Disneyland gave the Jungle River Cruise a special overlay called Curse of the Emerald Trinity, with its own story and everything, and from what I've dug up, it looked amazing. I'm not sure why it only lasted the one Halloween season. Honestly, it was probably just too scary. The premise of the overlay was that deep in the jungle was the Emerald Trinity. 3 emeralds that had the power to grant immortality to anyone who was able to successfully leave the jungle with the emerald in hand. However, if they failed to leave the jungle alive, they would suffer a fate worse than death. Reportedly, the fate worse than death involved being attacked and killed by living vines, and then at the end of the ride, the steamboat is attacked by zombies. That's actually probably why this only lasted a month. There are obviously some differences between Hong Kong Disneyland's overlay and the Jungle Cruise movie, most notably the fact that the Jungle Cruise film seems to have replaced the Emerald Trinity with the Tree of Life, but all the key plot points are still there. Sacred item, lost in the depths of the jungle. Sacred item can grant immortality, but it also has the power to turn you into a nature zombie. It's all there. Now here is the most important, exciting thing. Curse of the Emerald Trinity is not just a self-contained story. The Curse of the Emerald Trinity ties into a greater narrative about the Society of Explorers and Adventurers, which is a backstory that ties together attractions across every Disney park in the world. So, if the Jungle Cruise film is in fact based on Curse of the Emerald Trinity, it is confirmation that we are getting the first installment of the next great cinematic universe, Disney's SEAverse. A Disney cinematic SEAverse would open up the possibility for getting films based on The Jungle Cruise, Big Thunder Mountain Railway, Expedition Everest, The Enchanted Tiki Room, The Haunted Mansion. We could even get a 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea remake. And we even see submarines in the Jungle Cruise trailer, so I think we're halfway there. But that's a topic for another video, which I'm going to make next. Thanks for joining us today, everyone. That concludes yet another episode of Teacup For One. Let me know in the comment section down below. Are you excited for the Jungle Cruise movie? And if this is in fact the start of an epic cinematic universe based on rides from the Disney parks, which ride do you want to see become a film next? And if you'd like to hear me talk more about Walt Disney World, Disney films, or Shakespeare, please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. It's super easy. All you need to do is click on my face. Thanks for joining us on this Jungle Cruise adventure, everyone. My name is Matt and I have 2 degrees. Go away.